Sinister Stories.
In the quiet town of Crestfall, nestled within the Misty Mountains, stood an ominous dental clinic known as the Smile Haven Dental Care. Dr. Vincent, an enigmatic figure with a reputation for unparalleled expertise, ran the establishment. However, rumors whispered of strange occurrences within its walls after hours. Emily, a young woman plagued by a recurring nightmare of a faceless figure wielding a menacing drill, haunted her dreams every night. Upon waking, the images of the menacing drill and that tattoo the dentist had were burned in her mind. It was that of a skull with some missing teeth and large needle piercing through from the top. Despite her fears, an excruciating toothache forced her to seek help at Smile Haven. Upon arriving at the clinic, Emily is greeted by an unsettling silence. The receptionist's empty desk and eerie ambiance set her on edge. Dr. Vincent emerges, his demeanor overly polite yet unsettling. As Emily reclines in the dental chair, the machinery's hum seems unnaturally loud in the oppressive silence. During the procedure, Emily's anxiety peaks. The anesthesia fails to numb her senses, and every drill movement feels like nails scraping against a chalkboard. Unable to speak, she could not alert the dentist of her predicament. She felt the tears run down her face, and it seemed as though she can see the grin of the doctor get larger and larger through the surgical mask. Images from her nightmares flood her mind, blurring the line between reality and horror. As Dr. Vincent leans in, a glint of malice in his eyes, Emily glimpses a familiar tattoo peeking from beneath his sleeve. The same tattoo she saw in her nightmare. Terrified, she attempts to flee, but the clinic seems to warp around her. Hallways elongate, doors lead to nowhere, and the once familiar clinic transforms into a labyrinth of dental horrors. Emily encounters ghostly apparitions of patients, their agonizing moans echoing through the halls. She races to escape, but each turn brings her deeper into the sinister labyrinth. As Emily wandered deeper, the layout of the clinic seemed to shift. Hallways stretched endlessly, leading her in circles. Panic clawed at her chest as she realized she was lost within the confines of the haunted dental office. A cold breeze swept through the corridor, carrying faint whispers that echoed off the walls. Disembodied murmurs seemed to resonate from the closed doors, compelling her to investigate. With trembling hands, Emily pushed open one of the doors, revealing a treatment room. The dental chair sat shrouded in darkness, surrounded by outdated equipment draped in cobwebs. The air was heavy with the scent of decay, a nauseating reminder of the clinic's forgotten past. A shadow danced across the far wall, startling Emily. She turned to flee, but found the door had vanished. Panic surged as she spun around, confronting a ghostly figure materializing in the room. It was a young girl, her face obscured by shadows. Her spectral form shimmered, emanating an otherworldly glow. Emily's heart raced as the ghostly girl extended a hand, beckoning her closer. Despite her fear, Emily approached cautiously. The ghost's lips moved soundlessly, conveying a silent plea. Images flashed before Emily's eyes, scenes of patients undergoing torturous treatments, their anguished cries echoing through the halls. Driven by dread, Emily yearned to escape. With trembling fingers, she felt along the walls, desperate to find an exit. But the room seemed to shift and warp, confining her within its haunted confines. A voice, hollow and filled with sorrow, resonated within her mind. "Help us," it whispered, reverberating through her very being. Suddenly, the lights flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. Emily glimpsed the ghostly figures of patients, their faces contorted in agony, hovering in the darkness. Frantic and disoriented, Emily stumbled backward, crashing into the dental chair. As she lay there, paralyzed by fear, the room grew darker, swallowing her in an abyss of despair. In a moment of surreal terror, Emily felt a cold hand brush against her cheek. The ghostly girl hovered above, her spectral eyes fixated on Emily's with a haunting sadness. the ghostly figure revealed a door that was not seen by Emily before. She raced through the door and down the eerie corridor. Finally, she stumbles upon a forgotten room, illuminated by a flickering light. The walls are adorned with photos of Dr. Vincent performing dental procedures on patients, their faces twisted in anguish. She wanted to close her eyes, but she couldn't stop staring at the photos, as if she was mesmerized by their pain. The room begins to warp, and the faceless figure from her nightmares materializes before her, wielding the dreaded drill. With a chilling grin, it approaches, whispering her name. Emily dropped to her knees, crying and begging for mercy, tightening her eyes so she wouldn't have to gaze upon the horror in front of her. Just as it seems all hope is lost, Emily jolts awake, drenched in sweat, still sitting in the dentist's chair. It was all a nightmare brought on by the anesthesia. The doctor greeted her with a big smile and replied, "Welcome back." Relieved, she dismisses the nightmare as a figment of her imagination. However, the next morning, a news article catches her eye. Smilehaven Dental Care mysteriously burned to the ground overnight, leaving no trace of Dr. Vincent or its dark secrets. Emily shudders, wondering if her nightmare was more than just a dream. The sleepy town of Casbury, nestled amidst whispering pines and fog-laden streets, lived two inseparable friends, Lily and Sarah. Their laughter echoed through the quiet streets as they walked to school, sharing secrets and dreams. However, an unspoken fear bound them together, the looming dread of the annual dental checkup at Dr. Monroe's clinic. For weeks leading up to the appointment, Lily and Sarah's playful banter turned into hushed conversations filled with trepidation. On the fateful day of their appointment, the sky wore a somber gray cloak, hinting at an impending storm. Lily and Sarah exchanged nervous glances as they approached the aged brick building housing Dr. Monroe's dental practice. The sign creaked in the wind, casting an ominous shadow on the peeling facade. The waiting room felt suffocating, the air thick with the acrid scent of antiseptic. As they sat on the worn-out chairs, the ticking clock seemed to mock their growing anxiety. Dr. Monroe's and Dr. Higgins approached the girls. With their stern gazes and unnaturally wide smiles, they ushered them into their separate examination rooms. The metallic tang of fear lingered as Lily and Sarah reluctantly settled into the dental chairs. The hum of the fluorescent lights intensified, drowning out their hushed whispers of apprehension to themselves. Dr. Monroe, a stoic figure with piercing eyes and an unsettling calmness, approached. His demeanor exuded professionalism, yet a sense of unease settled upon her, like a heavy shroud. As the examination began, Sarah's heart raced like a drumbeat in her chest. The blinding glare of the overhead light and the cold touch of the dental tools sent shivers down her spine. Lily, equally petrified, felt a chill creep up her arms, the sensation akin to icy fingers tracing her skin. Both girls wondering how their respective friend was coping. Midway through the examination, a sudden power outage plunged the room into darkness. The girls' panicked breaths mingled with the oppressive silence that enveloped them. In the pitch-black room, they could only discern the faint outline of the dental chair and the looming figures of Dr. Monroe and Dr. Higgins. Whispers, barely audible, echoed in the darkness, sending a chill down their spines. Sarah's fingers clutched the armrest of the chair, her knuckles turning white. Lily's racing thoughts seemed to echo the growing dread in her friend's eyes. Just as fear threatened to consume them, the lights flickered back to life, illuminating the room once more. Dr. Monroe and Dr. Higgins wore impassive expressions, their eyes betraying no hint of the eerie blackout that had transpired. The remainder of the appointment passed in a blur of anxious glances into the yonder and stifled gasps. They could both hear the storm outside, pleading with any deity to stop this nightmare from continuing. Even though the girls were in separate rooms, they could feel each other's fear. What seemed like an eternity had finally come to end. Lily and Sarah, trembling but relieved, hurried out of the clinic as if fleeing from a malevolent force. That night, As the storm raged outside, Lily and Sarah huddled under a blanket, seeking solace in each other's presence. Despite their efforts to dismiss the unnerving experience, they couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister lurked within Dr. Monroe's clinic. For they both experienced the same traumatic darkness through the exam, and neither doctor was affected by it. Days turned into weeks, and the memory of that chilling blackout lingered, haunting their thoughts like a specter in the night. Lily and Sarah vowed never to speak of that day again, now eternally shadowed by the unspoken horrors they had witnessed in the seemingly ordinary confines of the dental clinic. From then on, the mere mention of a dentist's appointment sent shivers down their spines, a reminder of the lingering fear that had woven itself into their lives that ominous day at Dr. Monroe's clinic.